All right, Transformers fans, we are at the top of the hour and ready to begin our next panel with some amazing G1 voice actors. Now, let's give a warm TFcon welcome to, we'll go from this end, Michael McConnohie, voice of Trax and Cosmos. John Moschitta Jr., voice of Blurr, Punch and Counterpunch. Hal Rayle, voice of Snarl and Shrapnel.
And pipes.
And in his very first convention appearance, Joe Leahy.
Yeah!
Voice of Razorclaw. Now, this is a Q&A panel, which means the content is totally up to you. Whatever questions you want to ask, you get a chance to line up to the mic and ask your questions. Now, we're going to get started, friends, by asking you, how did you get started in voice acting, and what brought you to work with the Transformers?
Go Joe.
Well, let me see. Yeah, well, I had just graduated from school, and I was passing through Kansas City again, and I picked up a job for Blue Cross and Blue Shield Insurance. And I continued on to New York, and I said, this is a good way to make a living. This voice business, you don't have to worry so much about your appearance or your toupee or your girdle or things like that, and you can do 6 different voices and they won't know it's you, so if you just do one. Anyway, it looked like a good business at the time, and it's worked out pretty well for me. I think I enjoyed it all the time. I don't feel like I've worked a day in my life. So now to get on to the Transformers, I remember going over to Wally Burr, of course, the inimitable Wally Burr, and he put me on a little part in G.I. Joe, mainly yelling, "Yo, Joe," I think. Nothing too much, not too many lines at a time, just to see if I was, relatively stable and wouldn't cause any real disruption at the sessions. And then the Transformers came along, and we read for them, and I ended up with the Razorclaw, which I got to say, that's basically it. But it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, and met a lot of wonderful people, and here I am today. Thank you.
I'm Hal Rayle. I hail from a town of 1,200 in Indiana. I got good at doing impressions when I was a kid. I broke out of Indiana doing Howard Cosell and Muhammad Ali, all for car dealers all around the country, and that got me to Los Angeles. And I was working with Donna Lee Davies, and she got a call. They said, we need somebody to do a Dinobot, and it was Snarl. So I go in, and they say, here's the line, I am Snarl, Dinobot, roar. So I went, I am Snarl, Dinobot. And I became that. Yay! Then Insecticons came along and they said, would you do a ghosting thing? And I said, what's that? And they said, just kind of repeat the second word. And the line was, I am Shrapnel, Insecticon, Insecticon. And so I thought, well, he's a bug, so he's going to have the kind of a thing about him. So I just kind of went, I am Shrapnel, Insecticon, and that's how I got on. But I owe it all to Wally Burr, and he was a wonderful man.
Good old Wally. Well, let's see. When I was 12 years old, no. Actually, when I was 12 years old growing up on Long Island, there was a cerebral palsy fair a few blocks away from my house, and they announced that they would donate money to the cerebral palsy fair. Anyone that broke a Guinness record. So first I wanted to ride the roller coaster to Coney Island, so I called Coney Island and I said, hey, kid, take a hike, you're 12 years old, we're not going to let you strap yourself into the cyclone for 2 weeks straight. So I flipped through the book and decided I wasn't going to eat a car, swallow the pipe. So the next best thing was to teach myself how to do the fast talking, which I did, got some money donated to charity, told to shut up for 15 years. Then I worked for Warner Brothers, did it on a couple of things for Warner Brothers in Ohio. Then I was in a party in California years later, and a friend of mine was trying to pick up a Valley girl. And he was from New York and talking very quickly, and she looked at him and said, like, oh my God, you must be like the world's fastest talker. And he said, no, as a matter of fact, this person is. And I came over and I did my little party thing, and a man walked up, he said, hi, my name is Alex, I am the producer of That's Incredible, I want to put you on my show. And I said, well, that's really nice, but I don't think it's going to help my career to appear on a show where I follow a man who swallows a 30-foot python. And they kept calling and calling. The acting strike came along. I finally agreed to go on the show, and in fact did follow a man with a 30-foot python. He didn't swallow it, just shit all over the stage. But it was a 30-foot python. I thought nobody's going to see this thing. It aired Thanksgiving 1980. And by the following Tuesday, I was booked on The Tonight Show, The Merv Griffin Show, started negotiating a Federal Express commercial, started negotiating a contract with ABC, and they decided to come up with a character for Transformers. So it's like, okay, I'll be there. And that's how I became Blurr. And I've been going around going, Decepticons, Decepticons, Decepticons for the next 40 years.
One more time, can you take off about 10 seconds?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Michael McConnohie. I'm really pleased to be here. I moved out of Burbank 5 years ago, and I got off the plane yesterday, and even the dust smells the same. I always wanted to be an actor from a kid on, did school plays, all that sort of thing. When I enlisted in the Marine Corps at 17, I got into broadcasting. And broadcasting was cool. It was very allied. And when I got out, I was on the radio here and on the radio there and on the radio somewhere else. And I said, this is not acting. So I decided to throw away everything, including my first marriage, and come to, oh, that old thing.
Oh, that old thing.
And came to LA and proceeded to be totally unemployed for a long time. I was one of the oldest paper boys for the Los Angeles Times, and making auditions, and wound up doing live action shows at Universal Studios. I was Dracula at Castle Dracula for about 2 years. And then they shut down, rebuilt, and then I came back in the Conan Sword and Sorcery Spectacular show as the evil wizard, typecast. And then I was able to start doing auditions. And that's when I, too, oddly enough, was summoned to the castle of Wally Burr. And Wally, bless his sweet memory, Wally knew what he wanted. Mm-hmm. Boy, did he know what he wanted. And we stayed there until he got what he wanted.
Youngest tank commander in World War II.
Yes, he was. Long drink of water and determined. So for tracks, he said, I'd like to get something sort of like the Harvard lockjaw thing. Said, oh. Thurston Howell III or Al Franken in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. Yes, that's it. Yes, great. Okay, and okay, you're in. I said, what? You got the job? I do? I mean, I do. Thank you. So then for Cosmos, he said, I'm McConnohie, what I want is, I want a really bad Peter Lorre impression. Oh, I can do a bad impression. So I did, and he said, yep, bad enough for me. Boom. And that's how Tracks and Cosmos got started in the Transformers. Bless Wally Burr's lengthy sessions and his obsessions in the sessions. I miss the man greatly, but that's how I got there.
Never have painted his outer foyer. He had signatures there that were unbelievable.
So if you have questions for our panelists, please line up at the mic.
This works, right?
Yeah, we
Okay,
hear
yeah.
you.
Yes, we hear you.
So, two quick questions. First, how I always hear they always talk the cast of Transformers Beast Wars always talk about their ensemble sessions. What were yours like? And was the 1986 movie recorded as an ensemble?
For me, no. I went in and I recorded with Leonard Nimoy, and it was just he and I. And it was right after, I'm literally right after Orson Welles left, because no one was allowed in the studio. So it was just a snifter in his chair and an empty Perrier bottle in there. But there were guys from Marvel that were laying on the floor in Studio B watching him record, because no one was allowed in the studio. So no, it wasn't an ensemble thing, at least as far as I'm concerned. I know that they called in groups of people, but not for me.
Yeah, the same thing for me. I actually was working in New York, and I flew in and did like a 2 a.m. session, recorded my lines, and went home, and had no idea who was in the movie. You know, until they sent Robert Stack and I out on a press tour, and I'm like, Orson Welles is in this movie? Leonard Nimoy's in this movie? Judd Nelson's in this movie? So it was a surprise to me. And then the regular G1 sessions were great. They were fun, but unfortunately I was very busy in those days, so I didn't get a chance to be in on a lot of them. But the group sessions were just hysterical. I mean, you had all these great voice people just playing around and having struts melt. So, I mean, it was fantastic.
It was, the sessions were great because it wasn't digital recording. There was a lot of mechanical things involved, and they broke down a lot. Then some of the writers and the producers broke down. So while they're trying to fill the time, there's a bunch of actors out in the studio area and having little conversations and so forth. And anyone been to see Frank Welker yet? Well, go ahead. I mean, he deserves a clap or two. I remember one session when we were doing an interminable wait, and Frank was in the back of the room sitting on a bar stool, and we're saying, and then we hear a telephone being picked up, a coin dropping, the dial turning, and Frank proceeded to have a conversation with himself before he hung up. And at that point, I do remember we're all sort of like, how the bloody hell does he do that? And the fact that I got to be at that sort of a performance made me really, really happy.
Those rooms were amazing.
Yeah. I always had fun. I don't know. I mean, if you weren't getting the line, Wally would always give you the line, read it for you, and then you just had to imitate Wally. It was pretty simple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.